Greetings, everybody, for the beginning of the first month of March, the first week of March, day, even. So I, first and foremost, I must apologize right off the bat for getting to you so late because of what has already happened. I do have somewhat of a responsibility to you that I should be prompt, and as more of you come onto this channel, I've already been seeing some traffic in the past week or two. As more of you come on this channel, I feel that I have a responsibility to make sure that I can guide you through these events. And what happened yesterday was absolutely despicable. I made a community post about it, but I'm going to describe a little bit more about where we are and where we're going to go now. And I probably should have done it sooner. I had stuff in the morning. I did have some housework to take care of, but I probably should have been able to get to you by 4:30 or 5:15. In any case, so I think all of you have already heard at this point from other people. You are pretty tuned into the news, most of you. I'm pretty sure that you've heard what happened with Zelenskyy and Trump and Vance in that Oval Office. It was despicable. It was also something that we would expect. Like, I'm not surprised by it. You can see my face. I'm not surprised by this at all. But Trump, and he sicked Vance on him as well, which was not fair. He never has done that with anyone he respected. He spent the whole meeting just doing everything that he could to show disrespect towards Zelenskyy. It was obviously a setup that was designed to make Putin feel safer. And I'm not... several commentators, I will name one of them that I listen to. Tom Worth Jr. is one of them. You can just look him up. I'm not putting it in the description for time reasons. But Tom Worth Jr. On his channel, he actually, in his analysis, said that he feared for Zelenskyy's life because of the nature of Putin's political suppression at home and abroad has always been accidents, and it's always been stochastic. It's always been done with the purpose of plausible deniability, because he is someone who is pretending. We all know that that's what it is. He is pretending to be a democratic leader of a country that has rule of law, even though de facto what he is running is much more similar to what Stalin ran, or Saddam, or any of these other people, what Trump would want to run. I don't think he's going to be able to do it, especially more so with each passing day, but he certainly would have if he had the energy and the mental stamina to do it. That is what Putin is running in Russia, de facto, but he's trying to maintain plausible deniability. And that was what made him think that this was a setup. He believed that it was a setup to have Zelenskyy killed. Thank God it was not. I believe he's back in his country safe, and he returned to Europe, certainly, since I can verify that. He has returned to Europe and is safe. And so Thank God for that. But it was a setup in terms of to show the world what Trump really was about. And in a way, it's kind of stupid for him to do that because it gives them time to prepare. Uh, Speaking of preparation, I have an email template in the description box down below, and that template, I got thrown off track a little bit. That template, that wasn't for you. I'm just rolling tape right now. That template was, it is in the description, and it's about, it is an email to send to the diplomatic offices of Ukraine. I recommend that you send this email because I would like I would like them to be able to understand what their next steps going forward are. My recommendations to them are basically get off of Starlink, or at least build up a contingency plan, because it is owned by somebody that's compromised to this regime. And try to establish alternative sources of weapons. And that's all that they can really do. I hope that they survive. We're going to be much safer if they do. I am draft age, and I think that I'm more valuable to this world doing other things than fighting in a war, possibly under President Trump. I'd rather be abroad than at home under him if I was in the military, but still, I doubt that he would do that. Honestly, I'd be grateful if he even drafted me to fight in that war, because it would mean that he got his head out of his ass. But there's better things that I have to do, and like serving as a leadership, serving to lead you and help you, the American people, in that spiritual way that you need. There's much more that I need to be doing than fighting in a war over there. So I really hope that they're able to hold the line. So, that aside, cuts. So this is something that we all forgot about because of the Ukraine thing, which is a phenomenon that I've been noticing. I had to go through my YouTube history in order to be able to find enough stuff about the last week that I could make a video. And this is a phenomenon that we're experiencing. It's why I chose the format of weekly videos rather than a disorganized schedule, because I wanted to be separate from this so I could be a source of stability to y'all. But so there is a budget under consideration that has a 10% cut for Medicaid, which will likely include cuts to the Medicaid services for people that are unemployed, which could be a problem for several of the people that I know. It's about a 10% cut. In a place like Massachusetts, Medicaid is a federated program, and so these cuts would be implemented on a state level. In a place like Massachusetts, they might be able to absorb all of it through negotiation with drug companies, and that would be great. But this could do a tremendous amount of damage to some people. It's not the kind of apocalypse that we have predicted before for these programs. That is good in terms of, like, I would love for there to be some other kind of suffering that we experience other than losing Medicaid. Medicaid supports people that are, among other things, in recovery from drug addiction, who are recovering from PTSD, and people that are the very people that are most likely to be good leadership in the future, because they have empathy for the struggles of the American working class, which a lot of them are self-inflicted collectively. I've described this before. I describe it in my paper. But I don't want nothing painful to happen. Like, I want some pain to happen. Is what we've already had enough? Maybe. I would like to see a recession. That's something that I traditionally haven't wanted. I certainly didn't want it in the last 4 years, because I was concerned that it would lead to this guy winning. But he won anyway, because we're that, we don't want to live anymore collectively. I do. I want to live. But there's a lot of people that don't, and they voted as such. But I do think that we need to experience pain. I agree with that. I have known for a long time that we needed to experience pain in order to grow as a country. And that, unfortunately, COVID was not enough. It should have been, but it wasn't. I want that pain to be targeted in places that can help us grow. I don't want it to be something that is inflicted on the people that are trying to get better. And so I'm glad that the cuts that are being made, and they're probably going to make worse cuts eventually, but I'm glad that the cuts that are being made in that area are relatively small. Medicaid is the last program that we should ever cut, because it's exactly the one that they would want to if they're really thinking about it, because the less healthy people are, like, that's how they got into office in the first place. But ultimately, none of this is in their self-interest either. If you're under 50 or under 40, none of this is in anybody's self-interest, even the people that are doing it because of global warming. They're just too either delusional, or they don't want to live anymore either, or they don't care. They just want to hurt people that they don't like, and they don't care. That could be a lot of it as well, but none of it's not in their self-interest. Maybe if they're wicked old in their 70s or 80s, but really nobody below 50. None of this is in their self-interest either. But I hope that these cuts, I hope that they go away from Medicaid as much as possible. There are other programs that it would suck to lose them, but this one hits really close to home. For a bunch of reasons, both personally and also because this is how we got into this mess. I have all sorts of ideas about how we should be funding the amount of mental health care that we need as a country, which is absolutely tremendous. But it needs to be funded, and it will return on investment. We will get a return on that investment. It will be bigger than any of us imagine, in the trillions. Definitely in the trillions, if we take this seriously. So, but this is all to give Elon Musk a big tax cut, which we've all heard about. $4 trillion, not out of the individual budget this year, but over the term of the tax cut. To be clear, and Elon Musk and oligarchs in general, to be clear, I believe that when we get into office again, whether or not you believe in a long-term wealth tax, this is separate. I believe that we should impose reparations on everybody who received this tax cut, that we should tax them the amount of the cut in order to recoup that money, because that money was plundered from our public treasury. Most of it will go on to the debt because they're not willing to make the kinds of cuts that would be necessary to even have this be budget neutral. And it's absolutely disgusting that they're making this cut. Again, Trump promised all the way back 9 years ago, he promised that he would raise taxes on wealthy people like himself. How's that going? So, anyway, so we're seeing the projected, at this rate, the projection for the final quarter one economic growth is negative. So we are going to be in a recession soon. They say 2 quarters of consecutive economic decline. But like, we're already in economic decline, even according to the statistics that we have. Like, we're in a recession right now, just like the beginning of 2020 or 2008. It will be declared retroactively, but we're in one. We're in a recession now, which is good. I would. Am I an accelerationist? I don't like it when our side is weak, when the people that are advocating for democracy are weak. And a lot of accelerationism is absolute blind acceptance of pain of any kind. And I think that we ought to have to think more about it than that. That is a very thoughtless way of handling this. I believe that things even that have a big collateral damage, like a destruction of the overall macro economy, that make these people who are trying to take power, to take permanent power in this country, which shouldn't exist, weaker, it's good if it makes them weaker. But if it doesn't make them weaker, if we're weaker, that like there's no positive side to that. But if it weakens them, and to a degree that's accelerationism, but I'm not a blind accelerationist. And like, there are some things that we just have to fight, and we just have to put in the work. And a lot of accelerationism is born out of people that don't want to put the work in. They want to be able to wait for things to get better without having to put the work in. And that's not how life is. So, the economic protests yesterday, they went well. I saw several stores that their parking lots were empty. And so I'm sure we did quite a bit of damage to, at least to the lower level middle management, which could disrupt things and shake them up. It's a drill. We're going to have to do this for longer in the future. But it is, I'm glad that it's a miracle that we're even able to talk about this stuff. It shows how the blitzkrieg effort that they had to try to take everything over so quickly that we couldn't respond is failing, and we are responding. And if this is able to keep up, then we're not going to have the kinds of horrible things that I've discussed before. We're not going to have secret police. We're not going to have a militarized society where the military is used on American soil, and where it is impossible to do what we're doing now. So, James Carville has echoed a lot of what I've been saying in the latter part of this video, in a statement that he made that I agree with and disagree with about 30-day collapse in public confidence. And I saw this clip all over the internet. In a way, it's not true. Like, there's no, at least as of right now, maybe there could be later on, directed towards Congress, leading Congress to constrain this guy. But there's no end game at the end of 30 days that makes 30 days so special. It's not like there's going to be another presidential election in 30 days. And in that respect, it's kind of preposterous what James Carville is saying. I do think that this regime is weak. I believe that. I definitely believe that they're weak. But the way that we should understand them, he made a whole bunch of derogatory comments at activists and groups on the left. And I have my differences and disagreements with a lot of those groups. But his problem with them, I believe, is that they are reaching out and trying to tap their representatives on the shoulder and get people into a mode where they're willing to take extreme measures, because this is an extreme situation. It's a coup. It's a constitutional crisis. But so this is pretty extreme, what we're going through now. But he was disappointed in them, and he was like, let them destroy themselves. Not going to happen. They are weak. I'm not going to lie. Like, they're weak. And my ability to make this video is proof that they're weak. But that's not going to save us on its own. And we have to be willing to do the work. So, what I think about the weakness of the enemy, it is a useful thing to talk about how the enemy is weak in our current context. Maybe if we were a better people, we wouldn't be in this mess. But if we were a better people, a more resilient people, it might not matter that much. If we were a people that was capable of heroism, like the Ukrainians have been, and like we were in the past, then it wouldn't matter so much whether they're weak or strong. We would still be willing to fight them. But for a people that is full of trauma survivors and relatively weak in a lot of ways, and that is tired, and that would ordinarily, under a competent authoritarian takeover, a competently executed coup, we would be complete sitting ducks. To emphasize that they are weak means that we're more likely to win, and the more likely people believe we are to win, the more likely people that are traumatized, that are afraid of going to jail, that don't want to do the work of resisting because they don't want to face the penalties, that are weak in those ways, are willing to join forces with us. And that is the deciding factor, ultimately, are the people that are traumatized, which are the majority of this country, going to be able to participate in this. And if they are, then we'll be able to win. And if they're not, well, then we'll face the same destruction that has come to so many other societies that traumatized their children. But that's really the decisive factor. And in that respect, like, we should talk about the weakness of the opponent, but the weakness of the opponent is something, it's an opportunity if we can keep it. It is something that we have to put in, it is a potential. But in order to make that potential into something that's real, we have to be willing to do the work necessary to keep that hope alive. Because as incompetent as they are, they are not so incompetent that it's impossible for them to do it. They have their people. They chose the right people in the form of Kash Patel, and to a lesser degree Pete Hegseth. He is kind of a drunk. But they chose the right... He has written crazy stuff. They've chosen the right people to create secret police and all of this horrible stuff. And so it's not impossible for them to do what they do. It's just that it's very much not inevitable either. And we have to make sure that we can tell people that we can win. And we have to frankly, honestly, to a degree, we have to fake it till we make it. This was something that I did all the way back in January when I started this channel. I got on this we did not know nearly as much about the weakness of this regime as we do now. This was a fake it till you make it kind of thing, where I got on here with the knowledge that it might, and it still might, but it's less likely, that this might lead me to be put into jail as a political prisoner. I started this channel with that awareness, and it was a fake it till you make it kind of thing, where I would say that I would admit, and I do admit, that the odds are not on our side, but I don't use that as an excuse to give up, and I generally don't talk that much about what I think the odds are, because the higher that we feel like the odds of success are, and the more that we think about success, the more we will be willing to join as traumatized people, to join this movement and stop this. Like, if we knew that there was a possibility that we could lose, or that there was a likelihood that it was likely that we would lose, then we wouldn't do it, because we are of the trauma that we have. But if we're able to paper over that fact, and every bit of weakness helps us with this on the other side, if we're able to paper over how any kind of that we might not be likely to win, and we're able to pretend that we are, then that will help inspire confidence in people, and we will be more likely to win. So we should talk about how weak they are, but it's a different way of thinking about it. And at this point, I'm just looping over and over and over again. But anyway, I'm going to be back tomorrow afternoon with my video on my paper, Mass Child Maltreatment and the Future of Industrial Democracy. I'm going to have my first part of chapter 2 of that paper coming out then. I think I'll do 3:30 for the published date of that, and I hope you're all doing well. God bless you. God bless this country ultimately. That includes suffering right now, and I hope that we're all going to be able to do the best we can and get out of this mess and never end up here again. God bless you, and thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this. I've not been my most cogent today because I'm tired from the work I did outside. God bless you all, and I will see you in that next video. Take care.